Hey, welcome to Studio Classroom on the air. Your English will improve today. I hope you believe it, because I do. My name is Gabe, and I'm very happy to be one of your hosts here at Studio Classroom. And here's a question for you. What's your favorite kind of place to explore? People explore the countryside, mountains, caves, deserts, sometimes big houses that have a lot of rooms, and even outer space, the final frontier. But did you know that 71% of the Earth's surface is covered with water? And there's a whole world of water wonders beneath the surface of the ocean. The title of today's lesson is Reaching New Depths. We're learning with teacher Zach about his experience getting scuba certified. Did he have to learn any hand signals for communicating underwater? You know, life is full of challenges, and getting used to breathing underwater could be one of them. Well, let's continue with this month's Teacher's Tale right now.
Reaching New Depths. To my surprise, the 3-day training period proved to be anything but a disaster. Our lessons involved 3 parts. First, an instructor introduced us to all of the scuba equipment, as well as the hand signals for communicating underwater. This part wrapped up with a test to make sure we understood what we had just learned. Next, we headed to a swimming pool where we practiced breathing techniques. We began at the pool's surface. Each new technique we practiced allowed us to go deeper in the water. Eventually, we made it to the bottom of the pool.
Okay, so let's continue learning about Zach's experience as he went through the process of learning how to scuba dive. To my surprise, the 3-day training period proved to be anything but a disaster. And we've learned about that phrase before. If it's anything but a disaster, that means it's not a disaster. It's far from it. It's perhaps the opposite. It was enjoyable. It was a pleasant experience. The questions that Zach had were all answered. He had no more worries. It was anything but a disaster. But we want to talk about something at the beginning of this sentence, to my surprise, or to one's surprise. This is a very useful kind of phrase. It means here, I was surprised that. So to my surprise, or I was surprised that.
For example, to my surprise, our 8-hour layover at the airport went by very fast. Now, typically when you think of an 8-hour layover, you think, wow, that's a really long time. Is it ever going to end? Are we really ever going to leave? Well, to my surprise, it went by pretty fast.
Okay, so think of another situation where you might use this phrase, to my surprise, or to her surprise, or his surprise, if you're writing a story about somebody. Our lessons involved 3 parts. First, an instructor introduced us to all of the scuba equipment, as well as the hand signals for communicating underwater. And, of course, these are some very important things for you to learn how to work with your scuba equipment. Rebecca, do you still know how to assemble your scuba equipment before going into the water?
That's a really good question, Gabe. I think I might need to review, or perhaps I need a refresher course. It's been several years since I've been scuba diving.
Yeah, you know what? I went to Guam a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah. It was after you went. And I went to one of those scuba diving shops, got some scuba gear for pretty cheap, and you're supposed to go with somebody scuba diving. That's not something our lesson mentions, but it's very important to have a buddy. It's called the buddy system. I went by myself. It was a solo dive, and I had kind of forgotten how to assemble the scuba gear, but it's okay. I just went on YouTube and watched how somebody else did it, and so I did it by myself. I had an okay dive. It was afterwards that someone, or a lot of people, reminded me, Gabe, that's really dangerous. Like, you're not a super experienced diver. It's still important to go with somebody else. And I survived, obviously, but I just wanted to remind you, friends, whenever you go scuba diving, it is good to have a buddy for several reasons.
Definitely, that's a great reminder. Thanks, Gabe.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'll probably never go scuba diving alone again, right?
Well, let's continue on with our lesson. Actually, we want to talk about hand signals. Like this. When you're learning to scuba dive, you might think that this thumbs up means okay, I'm okay. But actually, underwater, thumbs up means, hey, I need to go up. So it's important to learn those hand signals.
Right. So when you're scuba diving, you don't want to be using this signal if you're okay. Definitely not. You want to use this signal. Is everything okay?
Okay, exactly. You can't hear each other underwater, but okay. Right. And of course, there are some other important hand signals that you need to know when you're learning how to scuba dive. Okay, this is all important for communicating underwater. This part wrapped up with a test to make sure we understood what we had just learned. Next, we headed to a swimming pool where we practiced breathing techniques, another very important thing.
Yes, indeed. We began at the pool's surface. Each new technique we practiced allowed us to go deeper in the water. Eventually, we made it to the bottom of the pool. Now, can we take a look at that word, eventually? What does that word mean, Gabe?
Yes, okay. Eventually is a very useful word for you, whether in speaking or writing something. This means through time or over time, perhaps including a process of experiences.
For example, you could say, it took a long time, but Sarah and George eventually made it to the top of the mountain. So they're out hiking, and it took a long time, but eventually they made it to the top.
Rebecca had an 8-hour layover, but eventually she boarded the plane and flew home. And friends, think of another way to use that word. Well, when you are in the ocean, you could sink or you could swim. Have you heard that phrase before?
Yes, but Gabe, we need to learn more about that in the Info Cloud.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Info Cloud. Joe and I were just talking about his experience of getting into graduate school in Taipei.
Yes, it was really sink or swim. If I didn't pass the entrance exam, I couldn't attend the program.
I like the phrase you used to describe your experience, sink or swim.
This is a great expression to use when you want to say that there are only two choices, failure or success.
The phrase is especially used when talking about a single person's effort deciding the end result of something.
Right. Imagine a person jumping into a pool of water. They only have two choices. They can either do nothing and sink to the bottom of the pool, or they can start to swim in the water.
So to use this phrase, someone might talk about a situation a person is facing and then describe it as sink or swim.
Life is hard. Sometimes it's just sink or swim.
From this sentence, I can know that the speaker means some situations in life are a matter of failure or success with very little in between.
When you're facing a sink or swim situation, focus on doing your best. In those situations, you can only control the effort, not the result.
Welcome back to Studio Classroom. I was just brushing up on my scuba diving information. Of course, one of the things you need to learn when going scuba diving is how to work with the equipment that you have. And of course, you need to learn those hand signals, proper breathing techniques underwater. There's so much to learn and a lot for me to review since I haven't been in a while. Okay, well, we need to continue with Zach's story about how he learned how to scuba dive right now.
Reaching new depths. On day 3, we took all of our new knowledge to the ocean. After suiting up in all our equipment, we followed our instructor's lead into the water. We made sure to follow each step of the process carefully. Before I knew it, I was really scuba diving. An attitude for life. I hovered above the ocean floor as all kinds of fish swam by. I felt gladness for the opportunity to literally discover new depths. With Doris's words still ringing in my ears, I knew the experience gave me a new attitude for life.
You know what? It is good to brush up on your scuba diving skills if you're going to go scuba diving again very soon.
Oh, yes. Is that what you're doing right there? I noticed that you have a scuba diving book.
Yeah, I'm trying to get myself excited about maybe going scuba diving again very soon because I really enjoy it and I need to get out more. You know what they say? Right after you get scuba certified, the first thing they tell you is to plan a trip because sometimes you have a certification, you know how to do something, but then you just kind of put it on your shelf and you don't do anything with it. So friends, if you get scuba certified or certified for anything for that matter, go and do something about it. Actually get good experience.
That's right. Well, let's get right back to our lesson. We need to continue learning about Zach's experience. We read on day 3. We took all of our new knowledge to the ocean. And I think that's also really important. So the first few days, or the first day, they spend a lot of time doing the book work and going into a pool. But now, as Zach is saying, they took all of this information to the ocean, and that's where scuba diving gets exciting.
Exactly. Okay, so on day 3, this is what we did. After suiting up in all of our equipment, we followed our instructor's lead into the water. And an instructor is so important in a situation like this because everybody is nervous. What's going to happen when you get in the water for the first time? So you need to make sure that you follow the instructor's lead. That is not just following somebody. It also has the idea of doing what they do, following their example.
For example, growing up, whenever me and my siblings would go biking with our dad, we would always follow our dad's lead. Why? Well, because he was the experienced biker and we were just children.
And so what that might include is letting him make the decision about where to turn because he knows the roads best as well. So it's not just about doing what somebody's doing, but learning from their experience and why they're making certain decisions. So following someone's lead really involves more than just blindly walking behind somebody or doing something like that. Well, we made sure to follow each step of the process carefully. Before I knew it, I was really scuba diving. Let's take a look at that phrase. It's kind of a fun phrase. Before I knew it. Or if you're writing about somebody else, before he knew it. Before she knew it, right? Before I had the time to think about what was happening. That's what this phrase means.
For example, Phil spent several hours going through his homework. He thought he was never going to finish. Well, before he knew it, he was all done. Just happened like that.
Before you know it, you're done. And often that happens when you're having fun, right, Rebecca?
Yes, usually it happens when you're having fun, more so than when you're studying. But when I was in college, it used to happen when I was studying too.
Oh, really?
Yes, because I had so much to study and not very much time. But the time just went by really fast.
Well, that's a good reminder, friends. I always like to encourage students, and not just students in school, but life students, to enjoy what you're learning. Even if you think it's an unpleasant subject like math, or maybe there's something unpleasant about your job that you have to do, but you can learn how to do it in an enjoyable way, hopefully, and it could be a skill that at least contributes to your overall skill set and something that you can use in another aspect of life.
That's right. You know, it actually takes less time just to do something than to spend a lot of time thinking about how you don't want to do it, like laundry. If I would just do the laundry, then guess what? Before I know it, I'll be done.
Exactly. Great point. Okay, and that's a great attitude for life. And that's the next section as well. It's called an attitude for life. I hovered above the ocean floor as all kinds of fish swam by. That's that's the great thing about scuba diving is seeing the sea life, right? Whether it's the fish or the coral. I felt gladness for the opportunity to literally discover new depths. And of course, he's not talking about becoming depressed, reaching new depths, but getting deeper in the ocean.
With Doris's words still ringing in my ears, meaning that he could still hear those words in his ears, I knew the experience gave me a new attitude for life. And I hope today's lesson will also encourage you and give you a new attitude for life as well.
It's never too late to learn something new, and it's never too late to review our lesson. Let's do that right now with
a review skit.
Our first dive. Wow, that was amazing.
Yeah, hovering over the ocean as fish swam by is amazing. It's an opportunity to discover new depths.
Literally. Man, so what made you decide to start diving?
Well, Doris always stresses that we should learn new things.
Mm-hmm. Doris Brone, the founder of Studio Classroom?
Yeah, she sent a group of us to take scuba classes together.
Oh, don't you know? You can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah, but our attitude at Studio Classroom is it's never too late to learn something new.
I agree. Life is full of challenges. A willingness to learn can help us overcome obstacles.
Exactly. And besides, I'm not an old dog quite yet.
Oh, you're right. Hey, did you have any doubts about learning to dive?
Oh, yeah. Worries cause me to panic. Can I swim with all the scuba gear? What if something goes wrong? How can I signal to other divers? I was struck with an overpowered feeling of fear.
But you overcame, man.
Yeah, to my surprise, the 3-day training period wasn't a disaster.
No, not at all. The first day, the instructor introduced us to all of the scuba equipment and hand signals and all the things we would use for communicating underwater.
And it wrapped up with a test, and we passed.
Yeah! The next day, we headed to a swimming pool, practiced breathing techniques. We began at the surface, learning new techniques, and eventually, we made it to the bottom of the pool.
And today, we take our knowledge to the ocean.
Yeah!
After suiting up, we followed our instructor's lead into the water.
We followed each step carefully, and before we knew it, we were really scuba diving.
Yeah! And Doris's words are still ringing in my ears. A willingness to learn can help us overcome obstacles.
And it's really true. You can teach an old dog new tricks. Hey, come on, old dog. Let's get going.
Yes, you can sometimes teach an old dog new tricks. Hey, speaking of new things, there's something new in your magazine this month called the Reader's Toolkit. It used to be called the Scrapbook. Anyway, it is a great way for you to review and use those usage tips that you see each month and all the vocabulary and some other things as well. That's on pages 56 and 57 of your September magazine. Okay, next time we have a completely different lesson for you right here on Studio Classroom. See you then.
A lifetime.